we have yet another great interview here for you on the Young Turks. It's possible that Jill Latiano Howerton is not only one of the most talented people we've had on, but has. It's no offense to Oliver Stone, Danny Trejo, Nina Hartley, and all others, but okay, but I can't imagine that she's not the most beautiful guest we've ever had.
Oh.
Okay, so Jill, it's great to have you here for a number of reasons. Jill is the executive producer of the movie GMO OMG, which is a lot of letters.
A lot of letters.
We're going to decipher that in a minute. But Jill has a background in acting before she executive produced this show. Let's do the whole thing. Let's do the career.
Okay.
Let's do the movie. The movie scared me.
Yeah.
There's monstrous pigweed in it.
Monstrous pigweed, I know.
And it's real. It's real.
It's a real thing.
And there's some chance it's going to kill us all.
Maybe.
Okay, so that's fun, and that's coming up in a little bit. First, how'd you get into entertainment in the first place?
Oh, gosh. Let's see. Well, I started as a dancer growing up. 3 years old until 18.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, danced my whole life.
Okay.
You're like, oh, dancer, I get it.
Okay, yeah, well,
okay. Tap, jazz, ballet, hip hop, dancing.
People still tap?
People still tap.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love to tap.
Oh, you're a tapper.
I was a tapper. I was. I feel like I can't say I am. I mean, I guess it's in my heart, but I haven't done it for a long time.
You're a tapper at heart. Okay.
I'm a tapper at heart. So that's when I started performing. We did competitions, and I danced in college, and then
any pageant stuff or no?
No pageant stuff, but I did start modeling as a teenager.
Oh, okay.
So I grew up in San Diego, and when I was in college, I went to Long Beach State, and I was there for 2 months, and I was there because that's what you do. You go to college after high school, but I was undeclared, and my mom I talked about possibly going to New York to model. So my mom actually called me one night. She's like, your dad and I have been talking. We know your heart's not in school. It's not what you want to be doing. And if you want to take an educational leave for a year and go to New York and try out the modeling thing, we're behind you 100%. I was like, click. And I withdrew from all my classes. And
that's amazing.
I moved to New York a month later, and I was there for 7 years.
All right, so let's break down how amazing that is in a couple of different ways. First of all, if I told my dad that I'm going to quit school to do modeling. Okay, all right, perhaps it's a little different situation. Okay, but even after I finished school, when I told him I'm going to be a talk show host, he was like, "Oh no, what is this? Please do not do it!" Right? But for modeling and to quit school, he would have jumped off a building.
Yeah.
Your parents they must be liberal hippies.
They're not actually.
They're not?
They're not liberal hippies. No, I think
they're just Americans. They're like understanding.
They're like normal. They're like, but they are very understanding, and they're very supportive. And they knew that I was just like, I wasn't passionate about what I was doing, so I wasn't even doing that great because I didn't care.
They sound like they're the kind of understanding parents who wouldn't even hate you if you were gay.
They would not. Hate
wow,
me if I was
that's
gay.
amazing.
Isn't that amazing? I know.
So where'd you grow up?
Carlsbad, down in San Diego.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, that's always a fun name, Carlsbad.
Carlsbad.
Yeah. Okay, so you go to New York, and you can't see because she's sitting here. You can kind of maybe tell, but Jill's also very tall.
I'm tall.
Okay, so that makes sense. So how'd the modeling go?
It went well. I supported myself in New York from the age of 18 to 25, and that's how I got into acting. So I was doing the modeling, and I started doing commercials. And I started enjoying the commercials a little bit more. I mean, modeling, it was fun. I got to travel. I lived in London. I went to South Africa. But I was like, there was only so far. Like, if you're not going to be a supermodel, you're just going to it just plateaus. And you're like, I'm working, but So when I started booking commercials, I was like, this is really fun. So I started my transition into acting. I started classes. And
so modeling pays really well, doesn't it?
It can.
Because I had a friend who was a male model, and he brought in ridiculous cash.
Yeah, I mean, it depends what you're doing. But yes, there is potential.
Okay, and are there pervy guys in modeling?
Perfect?
No, pervy.
Pervy. Oh, yeah.
Because there's always these stories of a lot of girls start at 15, 16. Yeah. And then there's these guys who are like, oh, I'm going to take care of your career, yada, yada. Was there some of that?
No, I didn't really get that. But I mean, you run into some pervy dudes. I mean, they're everywhere, really. But
that's true. If there's one thing we've learned about life, there's pervy dudes
guys
everywhere. Yeah.
But yeah, there's some weird photographers and there's.
Oh
some,
yeah, and they want to take suggestive pictures of you in their apartment, that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's weird things, and I'm glad that I had a good head on my shoulders, because there's definitely situations that I navigated well that could have gone not well.
Right. So then you wind up, to catch everybody up, doing shows like Rescue Me, CSI New York, Ugly Betty, Dirty Sexy Money. Of course, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, which we'll get to in a second, because obviously your husband's on there. It's obvious to us, but it's not obvious to them.
Right.
But we'll, if you're a hardcore fan, you've already figured out who it is.
Yes.
Okay. If not, we'll fill you in. And you were hosts between 2003 and 2005 of New York City TV series Fashion in Focus.
Yeah.
So was that the transition, modeling, so hence fashion, and then on TV?
That was one of them, but really it was the commercials. I just started doing tons of commercials, and so I was with an acting agency for the commercials, and I actually went to my commercial agent and I was like, I want to do TV and film. So they started sending me out for smaller roles they thought I was good for, and they're like, we're going to base it on the casting director's feedback. And I was like, great, that's all I can ask for in the beginning, So they started sending me out, and I booked Sex and the City and then Rescue Me, and it slowly built from there, and then that brought me out to LA. So.
Yeah, in Sex and the City, I like this. You were party girl number 2.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. That sounds badass.
That's my first acting job, party girl
number 2. Oh, that was your
2.
first one?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
It was awesome.
Yeah, we have a super political host, Michael Shore. We call him Epic Politics Man. And he was in like some party movie, and he was like party guy number 7 or
That's
something.
Awesome. See?
Yeah, with that guy who used to have the giant fro. Yeah, I forget. Like the one that was like the cone. Play?
Who is that?
Kid Play?
Kid and Play. Yeah.
Kid and Play, yeah. That's it.
Well, Kid from Kid and Play.
Yeah, that's it.
Or
that's
Play.
what I meant.
Yeah, party girl number 2. Woo.
So, more pervy guys in modeling or in acting?
Modeling.
Oh, you see, I knew it. I sensed it.
Yeah.
Like, I feel like acting's fairly normal these days.
It is, and there's also, there's studios, there's like, I feel like modeling is kind of loosey-goosey. It's like you're going to a casting at a guy's apartment, and you're like, okay, there's like more room for weirdness, I feel like.
Did you ever have to run out of an apartment?
No.
Okay. Which some of the people that work on the Young Turks can't really say, because we started the show in my living room. So some of them had to run out of my apartment.
Literally run.
Yeah, in the beginning. So you do Sex and the City, you do all this, you did Epic Movie, you did a bunch of movies. Do you love that? Do you love acting? Or did you like being the executive producer of the movie more?
I do enjoy acting a lot. But when this opportunity arose, it intrigued me. I mean, I've been passionate about food and healthy eating. I'm a mother, so it was something I was passionate about before, and then when I had my child and I was feeding someone else, it's just something that I really thought about and was really important to me. So a little transition, I got into the film by producing a series of PSAs for Prop 37, celebrity PSAs. Mm-hmm. So through that experience, I met Josh, who's one of the producers of GMO OMG, and he told me, he's like, me and my friend Jeremy, who's the director, just filmed this documentary. So I wasn't in it from the beginning.
Right.
They were editing, and he's like, can I share it with you? And I was like, absolutely. And they shared it with me, and I gave notes and just became friends with them. And I loved the film from the beginning. And it was just the two of them, and they were exhausted, and there was still so much work to be done. I mean, you shoot the movie, and that's 2 years in the making, and then there's so much more to do after that. So when they asked me to come on board, I was thrilled. It was like a dream come true for me.
I want to ask you about what it means to be an executive producer in a second, right? But first, before we move on from acting, so you wound up getting married because you said your mom, et cetera, we talked about it.
Yeah.
It's to Glenn Howerton from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Mm-hmm. For the people who don't know which character Glenn is, he's
Dennis.
Dennis. Yes. And in fact, he Dennis-sized you or something in one of the episodes?
Yeah. So I was in an episode called The Dennis System, where Dennis tells the gang how, his system of getting, luring women in and using them and then kicking them to the curb. And I was the example ex-girlfriend that he Dennised.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Did he Dennis you in real life?
No, because the last S of the Dennis system is to separate entirely, which we don't intend on doing.
Oh, I see. That's then you're out. I see. Right, because he's a tough guy. So, now time for an inappropriate question, which happens on the Young Turks. Can you guys retire on just the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia money?
That is super inappropriate.
That's right? Right? I nailed that. Yeah.
Yeah, you nailed that. I will not answer that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There you go. All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
I once had the guy who ran the Peach Pit, Joe E. Tata, on Beverly Hills 90210.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. He ran. Yeah. Right. And he was actually our first celebrity guest, like 1,000,000 years ago.
Amazing.
And he was like so open about it. I said, "Oh yeah, I'm retired. I'm in the Bahamas. I'm gone."
Yeah.
And he's like, and it's just on the Peach Pit. He's like, it was phenomenal, right? He's like I would like to keep going, right? But it's just optional, right? Yeah. So TV's great. TV's great. Now, we don't know what your situation is, but God.
Well, I will say that we are very thankful for that show, but it is a cable show, not a network show.
Okay.
And those are very different.
All right, I got it. See, that's perfect. See, that means they made a good amount of cash, but they can't immediately move to the Bahamas. I got it. Okay. So then, what does it mean to be an executive producer of a movie like OMG GMO? GMO OMG.
What does it mean? Like, what is my
job? What do you do as an executive producer?
It's interesting because, so technically, an executive producer usually is someone who just fronts money for a film. That's typical. Mm-hmm. That's not the case in this film. So Josh Kuna is the producer, and he's been on the film since day one. So I came on board halfway through. So it didn't make sense to give me the same title as someone who's been working on it so hard for so long.
I see.
So I got a different title, but the work that I do is of a producer.
Right. And I saw the movie, and at the screening you were presenting it, et cetera, and evangelizing for it. So let's get to it.
Yes.
What do all those letters stand for?
Genetically modified organism. Oh my God.
I get it. Okay.
Yeah. You're just getting it.
No, I saw it with my dad, but my dad is like, "What is it?"
I don't understand.
Okay, and then he saw it and he loved it.
I don't know what that was. I don't know. It's funny. That was a working title, and people loved it, so we kept it. And also, when people start to learn about genetically modified foods, they literally like, "Oh my God." Oh my God. That is their reaction. So
totally.
It made perfect sense.
It's more OMG than LOL.
Definitely.
No question.
Definitely.
In fact, you're about to go OMG because we're going to show you a clip from the movie. Yes. And I thought this was a particularly striking part of the movie. Mm-hmm. It's got numbers. I love facts. And when you hit me with the facts and then with the pigweed, and then I was a little devastated.
The monstrous pigweed.
So let's go ahead and devastate him.
After World War II, the battle with nature became an all-out war. Chemicals produced for explosives and nerve agents were reformulated as fertilizers and pesticides, then rained down on farmland around the world. In 1945, 200 million pounds of pesticides were used. By 2000, it had ballooned to 5.1 billion pounds. The result? Over 500 species of bugs are now resistant to pesticides. GMOs emerged in the 90s as the industry's most advanced weapon against nature. Plants engineered to produce pesticides and withstand deadly weed killers. But as weeds and bugs quickly adapted, the cure became a curse. Roundup-ready crops gave rise to Roundup-resistant weeds, and they are ravaging fields across the country. Horseweed, ripgut brome, annual bluegrass, hairy fleabane, goosegrass, and the monstrous pigweed can bathe in weed killer and still grow up to 3 inches in a single day.
And there it is, the monstrous pigweed. Let alone things called ripgut.
Ripgut brome. That's one of my favorites.
and hairy something or other.
Fleabane.
There's no way hairy fleabane's a good thing. There's just no way.
I feel like that's someone's name.
But like a really bad guy, like the guy kind of guy who's got
Fleabane.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. Like I'm going to go into your basement, Harry Fleabane.
I'm going to run out of your apartment.
Right. Totally. Yeah.
What's happening is there's so much use of pesticides and herbicides that they're becoming resistant. Bugs and plants are becoming resistant.
So that scared the shit out of me. And there's a lot of chemicals there.
A lot.
That can't be a terrific thing. So, number one, how much damage do you think that they're actually doing? Is it knowable?
I don't know that it's totally knowable, but one thing we always come back to is the safety of the actual genetically modified seeds is unknown. The only studies that have been done are from the companies themselves. So there's no...
That's usually really reliable.
Yeah, very reliable.
They're not at all biased. Because they're like, make money, not make money.
They want to be
either way.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
They don't care. So that's not proven. But the it has been proven that the pesticides and the herbicides that are being put on the GMOs are harmful. They can kill human cells at very low levels. And there was a study that came out of France that's in the film, Professor Seralini, where he tested not only the genetically modified corn, BT corn, but the Roundup herbicide that is being used on them. And all of the rats within 2 years, which is the length of the rat's life, had huge tumors. Most of the females had mammary tumors. And it just goes to show that it's definitely, causing damage for sure.
Right. There's two parts of the movie. One where you gave all those facts that we just played, and two when you see the rats with the giant tumors.
Yeah.
And that where you get a little bit of a gut punch. You get that OMG moment.
Yeah. Well, sorry.
And I remember my wife leaning over me like, "That's it. We're never going to eat again."
Yeah. It's we tried not to make a fear-mongering movie. We didn't want to just, scare people. But you do have to let people know that this is like an urgent thing that's happening. I mean, GMOs are in 85% of the processed foods that we eat. So it is urgent, and that's why we put that study in there. This is a real thing that's happening. But the other part of our film, which I love so much, is that it's a journey. It's not just like talking heads. It's not a typical documentary. It follows our director, Jeremy, who's a concerned father of 3 adorable kids, as you saw.
Yep.
And I like that it shows his journey of figuring out, what are these? I'm hearing about this. What is it? Are they bad? Are they not? And you're learning through his journey.
So I felt conflicted about that because on the one hand, I thought, I could relate to that. I'm a dad, and I got young kids, and he's just like me. On the other hand, this guy seems to care enough about his kids that he's going to find out what's in their food. I'm like, oh, all right, way to make me feel bad. I haven't looked at what's in my kids' food at all. Thank you. Yeah. So bless his heart, though, obviously. Yeah. So now, look, the other side of the coin is people will say, you're being unfair, okay? It's science, and this has saved so many lives because we've multiplied the amount of food there is in the world, and we saved the planet, and now you're crying over it.
Well, they haven't saved the planet, and they like to sell the story that we need GMOs to feed the world, but it's not true. I mean, there has been, the Rodale Institute did a 30-year comparison side by side of organic and GMO, and at first the GMO crops outperformed for a very short time, and then organic came right back up and they were matched. So they yielded the same. The organic did better in times of extreme weather and drought. So it's been disproven. The other thing that I like to tell people is it's not a production problem. The starving people, there are starving people. I think it's 1 billion people living under $1 a day that don't have food. But it's a misconception that it's a production problem. It's actually a distribution problem. I mean, we throw away tons of food, and we have an abundance of corn. That's why there's derivatives of corn in everything, and that's why that is actually why there's 85% of processed foods contain GMOs, is because it's usually derivatives of corn and soy that are in the processed foods.
So what is it that in your ideal world you would do? Would you ban them? Would you label them? What would you do?
Definitely labeling is number one. Banning them, personally I ban them in my own home. We eat all organic, but definitely labeling is the first step. It's transparency. People need to have a choice of what they're eating, especially since it's not proven safe. But I think the number one step is labeling, and I'm sure you knew about Prop 37 that did not pass last year in California, and right now there's a initiative in Washington State, 522, and they're voting now. It's a mail-in vote, and it's until November 7th, early November, and we're feeling really positive about that. So I'm encouraging anyone who's watching to, if they live in Washington State or they know people in Washington State, to encourage them to vote yes on 522.
So what happened with Prop 37? I know we were in favor of it, and I know that our executive producer here, right? You're an executive producer, you're going to relate. She was gung-ho about it, right? Yeah. And she wanted to damage some people after it lost.
Yeah.
So what happened?
It was a very narrow victory. It was 2% we lost by. The corporation spent $45 million, or $46 million to defeat it. And they put on these ads, and they were scaring people. They were scaring consumers. They were telling them their bills were going to go up, their grocery bills.
Might that
things
be
just weren't
true though? Like, so I pay more for the organic, or the free-range chicken stuff. I don't know if they're lying to me, but what can I do?
Organic is more expensive.
Okay.
But the labeling, no. I mean, it's in countries all over the world are labeling, and it didn't change. We know.
Right.
It's not
So the labeling doesn't cost any more, or a fraction of a penny,
the
whatever.
regulation they say.
But if you buy
it's
organic,
so
it's a little bit more.
Yes, organic unfortunately is more expensive. I wish it wasn't, because I think everyone deserves the to be able to eat healthy food that has been produced without chemicals. But the truth is, right now, that organic is more expensive.
So now, the thing is, farmers, once they start using Monsanto's GMOs, et cetera, then they're kind of screwed, right? Because then they're hooked on that, and then they have to keep going. They can't plant the seeds or something along those lines, and they have to keep going back to Monsanto and buying their stuff.
Yeah.
So if the 30-year yield is same for organic, why do they do it? Why do they switch over to the GMOs?
I think they're being fed the same lies, and I think they're believing it. I think they're believing that they owe it to starving people, that we don't produce enough food. They believe that the yields are going to be higher. They believe those lies that they're being told. So.
And if it works in the short term, there might be a lot of, they think well, I did get a bigger yield this year.
Right.
So they think, okay, great. So does Monsanto from time to time pull the rug out from under them and start charging so much? I keep hearing about India and farmers committing suicide. What's that about?
Yeah, I don't know exactly, but I do know that it's a cycle. So they sell you on the seeds. Mm-hmm. You plant the seeds, then you need to buy their herbicide because it's only resistant to their specific herbicide. So then you're buying that.
Yep.
And it's a lot of money. It's a lot of money to upkeep, and if you have to keep going back, and you were saying you can't plant the seed every year. A typical farmer would gather the seeds from the crop of that year and plant it the next season, but they cannot do that, so they have to go back and keep buying it. And I think it's just a cyclical, thing that they get stuck. And some people can't afford it. And
right. No, I totally understand that. Part of the reason we started online video here at the Young Turks and left Sirius Satellite Radio is because it was a closed system, kind of like the GMOs are. I know it's on a business terms, it's kind of a weird analogy, but you couldn't prove yourself anywhere else if you were stuck on Sirius Satellite Radio. So once you're stuck on the Monsanto seeds,
you're pretty stuck.
You're stuck, and you got to keep buying it. So that means they get huge leverage over you.
Yeah, and there's also, a problem that's happening is cross-contamination. So there's an organic farmer that's surrounded by GMO crops. Now, it's inevitable that there's going to be contamination. I mean, the wind blows it over. Birds, bees are bringing over the pollen from these plants, and it's threatening even the organic farms. And then what they'll do is Monsanto and other companies will send people over to test these other farms that have chosen not to buy their seed, and if they find it, they will sue them for infringement on the patent.
But how am I going to control the birds and the bees and the wind?
Exactly.
It's so unfair.
It's so unfair.
Are the rules rigged in Congress in favor of them? I mean, we had the Monsanto Protection Act that was proposed at least.
I mean, it's really dysfunctional what's happening. There's a huge revolving door between, the corporations and the regulators, the FDA and the USDA. So it's pretty corrupt, I think.
No, it's okay because we got change with President Obama, and so the head of his FDA is a former Monsanto lobbyist.
Yeah.
Oops. Okay, oh well. We tried. All right, so finally, are we all going to die?
Yes, that's part of being a human being.
That's true. No, seriously, you've been in your own home. Do you really believe that we're more likely to get cancer, et cetera, from the GMOs? I know that there's not a lot of science on it, as you explained before, because they purposely limited the science for their purposes. You've got the study in France. The rats scare you, of course, right? And then they'll throw a lot of it. But what's your gut? So what do you think?
I mean, my gut is that this is a small piece of the puzzle. I mean, I think we have a problem universally with the chemicals and the products we're using in the plastic bottle. There's so many things, so I'm not saying it's just GMOs. But I do believe that if nothing else, the pesticides and the herbicides are toxic. I mean, they're toxic to our bodies. It's been proven. It's been found in our rainwater, in human urine, in umbilical cords of pregnant women, and we know that we're being affected by it. And cancer, especially childhood cancer, I just read something 1 in every 300 boys and 1 in every 333 girls will be diagnosed with cancer before the age of 20. It's sick.
Yeah,
You know,
well, literally.
so I do feel like this is part of that, and I think we need to start looking at what we're eating, what we're putting in our bodies and on our bodies.
So I usually go at this from common sense. Like, I don't know all the details. There might be some good, there might be some bad, etc. But here's what I know. There's no way pesticides are going to be good for you.
Exactly.
Right? There's just no way.
No.
It's a concoction of chemicals.
It's chemicals.
Yeah. You know, is an organic apple that actually grows in nature more healthy than the one that got all the herbicides, pesticides, the GMOs, yada yada?
Yes.
Come on. Oh, of course!
Yes.
Of course it is,
Yeah.
right? So if you can, you know, my sense of it for my family is we're going to head in that direction.
That's the thing. I
right?
mean, you
It's
can't
not
go
easy,
crazy.
but-
No,
right.
I mean, you can't unless you're going to eat at every organic restaurant. Only, you know, I support all of the
No, I
organic
love
restaurants I can, but
restaurants.
you can't. I personally, I don't want to opt out of society completely. So
No, I like society.
GMO free in my home. I'm all organic in my home, but you know, we go out to dinner, and I try not to stress about it. And I know it can be super overwhelming for people to hear all this information and be like, oh my God, you know, I'm going to die. My kids are going to die. And it's just about being informed. It's about knowing what you're doing it knowingly. Those are the same thing. Sharing.
It's a lot of knowledge.
There's a lot of knowledge
We're
going
pro-knowledge
on. Yes,
here.
pro-knowledge. But it's true, just being informed and talking about it. And that's why we wanted this film to come out, is to start the conversation. And to move towards a future that's sustainable and good for the environment and good for our health.
And it is out right now. So it's opening in different cities throughout the country at different weekends. It's in theaters. It's called GMO OMG. If you want to see if there's one near you, at a theater near you, go to gmofilm.com, gmofilm.com, and you'll be able to tell Jill Latiano Howerton is the executive producer. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks
We
for
appreciate
having
it.
me.